Eyta Daaaaaaar, friends and family of the Simply Labeled podcast. Welcome to the 11th episode of your favorite podcast. Our aim here is to raise authentic leaders everywhere across Africa and the world at large. Up front, I'd like to apologize to our loyal followers that you had to wait for 2 weeks for this particular episode, as opposed to the weekly publishing that has become our custom. By God's grace, I have taken on a new responsibility professionally, thus having to devote all of my daytime immersing myself into my new role and building relationships and, by extension, building the business that has been entrusted to me by my employer. So, for the foreseeable future, we have made a decision to start publishing new episodes bi-weekly going forward, whilst I devote my time to my newfound responsibility, but continue to build new and impactful content which is worthy of your time and hard-earned money. Speaking of building, do we have an exciting topic for you today? In this week's episode, we speak on the subject that I've titled Builders and Bulldozers. So, a week or so ago, I was catching up with a good friend and former colleague. And in this engagement, we happened to reflect on our time and experiences together working at a certain company. It was a robust discussion in that we reflected on what we believe are the costly leadership mistakes that we, together with the leadership of the day, made in how we ran this particular business. It became apparent to me in this engagement that there is actually a process to building a culture similar to how a builder would build a house. In this insightful catch-up, it is exactly at that point where this particular topic and discussion was birthed, or at the very least, the inspiration for it was birthed. There is actually a method to constructing a house that is going to be inhabited or used by people. You simply cannot start anywhere, anyhow. Let's think about this for a moment. The building actually starts with the architect, who conceives the idea, designs what this house would look like when it is finished. He or she then draws the complete plan with clear and specific measurements of this house, long before even a site is identified or the first brick is even bought. Once all protocol has been observed, the architect then hands over the plan to a professional builder who is skilled in their own right in that he or she is able to read and interpret the plan and envision the finished house before construction even begins. If all things are held equal, once a site has been identified, bought, and handed over to the builder, it officially becomes a construction site for the duration of the building work. Consequently, the builder can then commence his or her work effectively from that moment onwards, assuming that this is a vacant land with no existing structure on it. However, if there is an existing structure or building on site, it goes without saying then that the builder must first conduct a thorough inspection and apply their expert mind on the most appropriate course of action. Simply put, they would have to decide if this existing structure fits in with the plan that has been designed, or whether or not to break down the structure completely or sections thereof, thus making way for the construction of the new building. It follows then that depending on the size of the job and the agreed timelines to completion, the builder may employ the use of a bulldozer to swiftly and efficiently deconstruct the old and make way to construct the new building. A bulldozer, and I quote, is an earth-moving machine designed to push large quantities of rubble, soil, sand, and other loose materials. They were originally used by farmers as tractors to plow and clear land. Over time, dozers have evolved to accommodate a variety of environments and applications with high levels of efficiency. Close quote. And I've taken this definition from a very popular source called Google. So, friends, what does this mean? And what does this have to do with leadership or anything for that matter, right? You see, unless you are building your own business from scratch, where you have the unique opportunity to infuse a new culture from the get-go, most leaders and managers, unfortunately, inherit existing teams. And with existing teams come established cultures, ways of work, embedded beliefs, norms, and the legacy, at times, of the old leader or manager. More often than not, some of these existing norms tend to be counter where an organization is trying to journey towards. This then demands that a leader is able to wear the hat of both a builder and a bulldozer, depending on what he or she finds upon conducting a thorough, quote-unquote, site inspection. In the words of my dear friend in the conversation I alluded to earlier, and I open quote, the danger is that the builder and the bulldozer cannot operate at the same time on the same side. Close quote. Their roles are both important, but their functions are fundamentally different. They both follow a structured and predetermined way of going on about their business, yet their intended purposes is vastly different one from the other. A builder builds, but a bulldozer breaks down. A builder constructs, but a bulldozer deconstructs. A builder requires a lot of expertise and hands on deck, whereas a bulldozer requires reasonably basic expertise and fewer hands on deck. A builder takes time to build, sometimes weeks or months or even years. But a bulldozer can often take a day or two to do the work they need to do, depending on the size of the job. A builder builds in phases, whereas a bulldozer does a job that is one and done. A builder must exercise patience, whereas a bulldozer does not always need patience for the kind of job they need to do. A builder must place the right skill on the right job, whereas a bulldozer only requires one particular skill, which must be used accurately and responsibly. A bulldozer must see the job through until the original design of the architect is complete. Let me repeat that. A builder must see the job through until the original design of the architect is complete, whereas a bulldozer must ensure that all unwanted rubber and material is completely removed from site. Friends, why is this important? Allow me rather to put you at ease and say, I'm not asking you to choose one side or the other. In other words, I'm not asking you to choose whether you ought to be a builder or a bulldozer. That said, there is ample evidence, scientific evidence, that corporate boardrooms are filled with more bulldozers than builders. The danger with employing only a bulldozer approach to running a business or building a culture is that you run the risk of removing, eliminating, uprooting, and breaking down elements that you could use in building this house from existing materials. You see, the bulldozer may get you results in the short term, but the damage or the cost may be so big in the long run that it is irreversible and or catastrophic. On the flip side, however, by ignoring the bulldozer and only employing the builder approach, you may make progress and probably get to the roof of the house. But soon, the cracks are going to start showing and the integrity of the structure is going to be at risk of collapsing and falling in on the inhabitants. A responsible builder takes time to inspect and consider what they need and don't need in the construction of a house. Unproductive beliefs, behaviors, habits, ways of work, and culture must come into contact with a bulldozer in order to make way for more positive beliefs, mindsets, behaviors, etc., with the aim to build a structurally sound building. In closing, it is not people that must be bulldozed. It is rather the mindsets, behaviors, and attitudes that are not in keeping with the building blocks towards a desired building that everyone can admire and enjoy for a sustainably long time to come. The builder and the bulldozer each have a role to play, but rarely at the same time and on the same side. Well, friends, this marks the conclusion of our podcast for this week. I trust this has been worth your while. Please remember to click that follow and notification button, and don't forget to comment and rate our podcast so we can reach more audiences and raise more leaders like yourself. May the rest of your week be everything you have hoped for and more. Eyta Daaaaaaar.